All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at a bash hack that my colleague Andy shared with me, and this is very useful, especially if you're running a lot of command line or bash, I should say, commands. And one of the things that happens is sometimes you're wanting to access a command that you ran quite a while ago. So, of course, it depends on the length of your history that you have. But if you have extended history and you want to go back and run a command, one of the things you can do is you can run this history command as you see here, and you can get the past history. And one of the things you'll notice with this history command is it comes with these line numbers. This is going to be very useful because we'll be able to access this. So we can get the history of all the commands. We'll notice the number, and again, if you have, let's say, 10,000 things that you've run, what if we need to run a recently command and then edit it or whatnot. In this case, we want to edit this echo another line into file. So let's say we want to access this. Now this is pretty straightforward because it's just right there so we can see it. But let's imagine that we had 20,000 lines that we'd run. We'd have to go through a really long history to find it. So one of the things that we can do, if we want to just run this 217 that we can see, we use this exclamation point here. We'll put in the line number, so in this case it's 217, and then the :P puts it in memory. So that way the first up arrow we press is going to repeat that line. So if we go back here, normally if we push the up arrow, it's going to be history. That's going to be the last command, right? But because of this exclamation point 217, what that means is the very next up arrow we press now is going to be this line after we hit enter. So you'll see that it confirms this is the line that it's going to be putting right here. So before we run that again. So now we could edit this line and do what we want. Okay, well, what happens again if we have, let's say, 20,000 lines that we've been running and we're searching for? So let's imagine that echo of another line, let's say, was on line 5,000, but in our history, I should say. And our history, however, is, let's say, 20,000 plus lines long. Well, one of the things we can do in this case is we could use history, and then this is very familiar with those of you who've done PowerShell. We're going to use the pipe character, and then we're going to search for where there's echo, and that's going to return all of the instances of echo with those line numbers. So in that case, we would see, okay, well, in the example that I used, it would be around the 5,000 history line. And so that's one of the things that we can do. And what this does, essentially, if you think about it, is it's very similar to PowerShell. Essentially, this becomes an object that we're searching. So over the pipe, we're searching this object. It's the same thing with PowerShell. If you have a line, you pipe it, it's going to be doing something with that object, whether sorting or filtering further. So this is very useful because, again, there's a lot of situations where you're in where you might have a line that you want to quickly access because you just need to edit one or two things, or you want to rerun it, and it was a long time ago that you run it. It's always convenient if it was just right there, like it was the last command that you ran or the last two commands. But if it's like 2,000 or 3,000 commands ago, it can be kind of tricky to go through that. And so that way you can really quickly find it. You can really quickly put it as the next command to run and then edit it or run it again.